get up, let me begin. This is 𝗕𝗙𝗪𝗧𝗏. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down. Get up, let me begin. This is 𝗕𝗙𝗪𝗧𝗏. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Shout out Young Swish.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright. And today we've got a lot of stuff that we want to go over, a lot of stuff we want to talk about. It is week 2 of NFL football. And Marissa, it feels like week 2 sort of just snuck up on us, right? It feels like we talked all summer. We were all excited about, the NFL season to finally be here. And now we're already in week 2, right? And we talk about the importance of these games, or some people don't think they're as important, but these are the games, honestly, even though a lot of people are still stuck in a certain gear, these are the games that are going to matter the most in December. These are the games that are going to matter the most in the crunch. These are the games that are going to matter the most when you're trying to fight for a playoff spot or that wild card spot, right? And so for me, it's exciting to have football back. It's exciting to be in week 2 already. Obviously, a lot of good matchups to look forward to, and we're going to get into a lot of those. But before we jump into all that, make sure you guys do us a huge favor. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. We appreciate you guys for making the Sit Down Morning Show a part of your regular routine. We greatly appreciate you guys for spending your mornings with us. Marissa, I think I want to start us off in Minnesota. I think I want to start off in Minnesota, and I want to talk about JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy is a guy that, for right, wrong, or indifferent, I think a lot of people had mixed feelings about him, his potential as a pro. You've had some really good quarterbacks in the past come out and they talk and they lauded about how they believe in JJ McCarthy and his ability to uplift this Minnesota Vikings franchise. Obviously, all of that kind of was stymied when he got injured last year. We didn't get to see exactly what JJ McCarthy was made of. And then those expectations that he came in with, right? Because he shocked everybody, wowed everybody at the NFL Combine, wound up getting drafted a lot higher than what many people anticipated him to get drafted. And he shocked a lot of people, earned that right, missed the opportunity again to play his rookie season. So all those expectations that came with the Minnesota Vikings drafting him and being excited for him, right? It has basically just transferred to year 2. The expectations for JJ McCarthy to get it right and be correct is now. You look at the offense that he has, right? He has a good play caller and a guy like Kevin O'Connell. He's surrounded by elite weapons such as Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and we'll see what happens when Jordan Addison gets back. They've got Adam Thielen back in the fold. Very quietly, Marissa, right before our very own eyes, this Minnesota Vikings team has built an offense, a sustainable offense around JJ McCarthy. To me, I think that they probably have one of the better position groups in the National Football League when you add Jordan Addison to the equation. And then when you also think about Aaron Jones being there, he's got it set. He's got it set. Now, obviously, they got some little bit of injuries banged up on the offensive line, but it brings me to the conversation. Is JJ McCarthy the truth? Marissa, I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are on JJ McCarthy. Marissa Meyer is making her debut on the Sit Down Morning Show, but I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are on JJ McCarthy. And do you think that he is the guy for the Minnesota Vikings? Because, a lot of people have mixed reactions towards that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing out of this is you see all the comments that were made after the game in terms of they went into halftime, they were down, but yet he never wavered. He never lost composure. You see all the comments about he kept going up to his offensive lineman and being like, I got this. It's on me.
Yep.
And for someone that's coming in first game, obviously he sat out his entire rookie season with the knee injury, but to come in and have that confidence right away and be like, no, you know what? We're down, high pressure moment on the road in Chicago, and still be able to lead the offense effectively like that. It shows immense promise for him.
Yeah.
It shows, honestly, that he's way ahead of just being in his quote unquote rookie season. So I think, honestly, he showed a lot of issues too in that game, but to be able to bounce back like that, never have it affect him, I think he is the truth for the Minnesota Vikings.
I think the biggest thing that you want to see in a young quarterback is poise, Poise is the word I think you were searching for there.
Yeah.
I think poise is the word that we all want to see from a lot of our quarterbacks in the National Football League. I think that JJ McCarthy is made of the right stuff. What I mean by that, he has the mental makeup to deal with anything that the ebbs and flows that a game might throw at him. I know people hate bringing this up, but he, playing at the University of Michigan, I think Jim prepared him the correct way. I think Jim prepared him for life in the NFL and what that might look like. Quietly, I know he threw an interception, but quietly, JJ McCarthy had a very nice day, right? Leading them to that comeback. But we're talking about 2 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, putting the team on his back when he needed it most. And I know a lot of people think, Malik, you're making the most out of JJ McCarthy and all this like that, but we've got to give credit. That was his first start. That was his. Listen, we've got to give credit to that. And I think that how he looked is indicative of what he might be down the stretch. If that is what he's doing as a young player, putting the team on his back for this Minnesota Vikings team, I think that says a lot about his character. I think that says a lot about him moving forward. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think of JJ McCarthy, what you guys thought of his debut. I'm curious to hear everyone's mixed reactions, mixed opinions. We go from one quarterback that seems to have it figured out to another quarterback that doesn't quite yet have it all figured out. And I'm talking about my Alabama guy. I'm talking about Bryce Young. Bryce Young and Dave Canales. You've got a question. I don't want to even bring up Dave Canales just yet because I don't know if Dave Canales should necessarily be on the hot seat. But you got to wonder, is the Bryce Young era on the hot seat? Because what you were expecting to see from him, they haven't seen it just yet. You figure you got some receivers in the building to help this guy. Obviously, Adam Thielen's no longer there, but you got Xavier Legette. You got a young player in Ted McMillan. You surrounded the guy with some weapons, Jatavian Sanders. It just feels like for whatever reason, it's not all clicking. And again, it could be a week one thing because, we love those week one overreactions. But for me, it feels like Bryce Young and company is leaving a lot to be desired out there, Marissa. I think a lot of people are left scratching their head about Bryce Young and trying to figure out, well, is he ever going to take that next step? Listen, some guys learn faster than others, right? Some guys would benefit from sitting. But to me, I feel like for this Panthers team that is always looking, especially with the owner, Dave Tepper, who's always looking to compete, always looking to upgrade the roster as much as possible. I don't know. I feel like the quarterback position for it being the most impactful position in the National Football League, I feel like they have not gotten the most out of it just yet. Marissa, what are your thoughts?
I would agree with you. But also I will say I don't think that they've done the best job of surrounding him with the necessary talents.
Okay.
Obviously, you look at last year, you do get Jatavian Sanders, but he was injured for most of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So while you're thinking, oh, we're going to upgrade the tight end position, we're going to get Bryce Young this outlet they can go to, it kind of fell by the wayside because he entered a season where most of his talent was injured. Most of the talent on the team is older. And also the offensive line, yes, you go out and you get 𝗦𝗢𝗎𝗓𝗏, but also it has not been great around Bryce Young. Yes, can he avoid some of those sacks due to maybe making a lot faster reads or not scrambling outside the pocket and putting pressure on the offensive line?
Okay.
Yes, but also I don't think that they've done a good job of structuring that offensive line to actually be built around his game. And then also, I don't think the defense has had the elite talent necessarily on the field consistently because you have had injuries to J.C. Horn.
Sure.
You have had inconsistencies across the defensive line.
I got to push back a little bit, though.
Okay.
I disagree. I think that they have done a good job building the offensive line around him. I really do believe that. I think that you go out there, you get 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, right, who's been a little bit banged up, but you got Damian Lewis, who's a very good guard in football. Austin Corbett, again, another guy that I like a lot. Robert Hunt, who they went out and spent big money on, right, to get him from the Miami Dolphins. And they got Taylor Moton as well, who just earned another extension with them, who's been just a standout right tackle in the National Football League. I disagree with you. I think that they've actually have tried to build this offensive line. At some point, the onus has to be on the quarterback. Because let me tell you why I disagree with that. Because when you put this backup quarterback Andy Dalton in there, we've seen noticeable production from this offense. So I don't want to let him off with he hasn't had the weapons around him, because that couldn't be further from the truth. That couldn't be further from the truth, in terms of the weapons that they put around him. Hunter Renfrow, Jimmy Horn Jr., right? This Jimmy Horn Jr. is a young player, but I think he's going to wind up coming on from them later down the stretch. But they've got Ted McMillan. I think they've done things, Marissa. I even like the running back core. I like Chuba Hubbard. I like 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 saying at some point Bryce has got to put it together. And this is coming from a Crimson Tide fan. I will want nothing more but to put the the onus on his coaching staff. I would love nothing more but to say, you know what, the front office hasn't done right by him. But the fact of the matter is the proof is in the pudding. And what they've done is they've done everything to try to build a sufficient offense. And, you know, sometimes it just feels like things get stagnant out there. It feels like they don't have the juice. It feels like they don't have the motivation to move forward. That's just what my thoughts are. That's just what my eye sees when I turn on Carolina Panthers football.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I just want to say, though, that Bryce Young can't help the drop issues that Leggett had last year. Yes, he came in as supposed to be this new top wide receiver that they had. But I think Leggett, he's shown a lot more promise this season and throughout training camp. But, like, in terms of last year, I think those drop issues definitely held the offense back.
For sure, but we're not going to say that just drops are holding the offense back when the quarterback's not always placing the ball in the right spot, where the quarterback seems to be just off balance. Doesn't seem like he has it all there, or for whatever reason isn't just mastering it. That's just what my thoughts are. Yeah. But listen, let me know down in the comment section what you guys think of Bryce Young. A lot of people told me when Bryce Young got drafted by the Carolina Panthers that, Carolina had their work cut out for him, essentially, that it was going to be an uphill climb for Bryce Young to kind of sort of put it all together. And it's been anything but that just yet. I want to keep the conversation rolling. I want to move on over to Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, the question of the day is, or one of the questions is, can Daniel Jones revitalize his career with the Indianapolis Colts? That is going to be the question of the day. Can Daniel Jones revitalize his career? He had a great start to the season. Defeating the Miami Dolphins. He looked like a completely different quarterback. He looked like a guy that believed in himself again. He looked like a guy that believed in what he was seeing out there. He trusted his weapons. I don't know. I thought Daniel Jones shocked in a lot of good ways. And I think if you're a New York Giants fan, you're probably wondering, maybe you're not, right? Because I think you got a very good quarterback in Jackson Dart that's going to be young and coming up. But you got to be wondering, did we just move off of our quote-unquote franchise quarterback or our long-term starter for Russell Wilson or for Jackson Dart, an unknown commodity in the National Football League? And listen, that's going to happen, right? You're going to have to take a shot in the dark, in the National Football League to make sure that you land the guy that you think could be your guy of the future. But the fact of the matter is, that is a real question right now. Is Daniel Jones going to be able to revitalize his career with Shane Steichen in the Indianapolis Colts? I'll tell you right now, Marissa and everybody, I was impressed with what I saw. I think the biggest thing for me is I saw a confident player. And that was something that I was waiting to see from Daniel Jones. I was always wondering, hey, when would Daniel Jones take that next step? When would Daniel Jones believe in himself? When would Daniel Jones be able to say, you know what, at the end of the day, the onus is on him. He has his ability to run the football. He has his ability. He does have a nice deep ball. Listen, I think Daniel Jones is a talented player. And I think that he's going to continue to prove people wrong as his career progresses. Marissa, what were your thoughts on that, though?
I think sitting last year and behind Kevin O'Connell's scheme in terms of going from the Giants to the Vikings is helping mold him into this player that we are seeing now.
Okay.
You enter him into an offense that is more quarterback friendly, where he can sit, he learns.
Isn't that crazy that we're saying a Shane Steichen quarterback friendly offense when Brian Daboll's calling card is his ability to grow with young quarterbacks? Literally, that's literally what his calling card is. That's what he's done. He did it with Josh Allen. We've seen it. We have seen it. What got him the job with the Buffalo Bills? Well, what he was able to do with the New England Patriots. Like he's been able to work with young quarterbacks, get the most out of them. And we saw those in guys in limited time when Tom Brady would go out or Tom Brady, would just not play in preseason games. All the Patriots quarterbacks looked like they were prepared. So he got this calling card around him that, hey, you know what? He is going to be able to get the most out of young quarterbacks in the National Football League time and time again. So everybody thought that, if anybody could unlock Daniel Jones's potential, guess who it's going to be? It's going to be Brian Daboll. So it's just kind of crazy that we're saying that, Daniel Jones is flourishing because he's in an Indianapolis Colts system that is quarterback friendly. When I actually think we could be saying, well, he's flourishing because maybe he has an organization that believes in him. Remember, that's not the regime that drafted him, but they are the regime that heavily targeted him in free agency because they saw something throughout that, right? And maybe Shane Steichen, who was with the Philadelphia Eagles, he got a firsthand look of what Daniel Jones could potentially do. And maybe he says, you know what, I could unlock that guy. Maybe that's what was seen that maybe was falling on deaf ears with people. I have no idea, but I definitely think that Shane might have saw something that he felt like he could unlock. And I think that's why Daniel Jones is having success. Sorry to cut you off, but
No, you're good. And I think to that point too, in terms of just like Shane Steichen's system, I think it's also you see what Daniel Jones can do with better wide receiver talent around him. The Giants, kind of almost to the Bryce Young point,
Yeah.
early on in Daniel Jones's career there with Brian Dable's mix, they didn't necessarily do a great job of continuing to build around him. Yes, did they go out and get Malik Neighbors last year? Yes. But outside of Malik Neighbors, who did they have at wide receiver? Names, maybe. But now you enter him in an offense where he has Michael Pittman, where he has Josh Downs, where he has Alec Pierce, where he has Adonai Mitchell. He has the wide receiver talent around him now that he doesn't necessarily have to be Superman and put the offense on his back, and can rely on the wide receiver talent to uplift his talent for once. And I think now we're seeing what Daniel Jones can actually become if things are working cohesively on an offense.
It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. To continue to watch Daniel Jones and Colts down the stretch here. Who do they have this upcoming week? I'm trying to pull it up right here. I'm really curious to see who they have. So Daniel Jones, and they have the Denver Broncos. So this is going to be a tough matchup, right? You're going up against that Denver Broncos defense. You're going up against Pat Surtain, a true number one corner in the National Football League. What does it look like when things get a little tighter for you? Is he going to be able to put it all together? These are going to be questions that I'm going to be asking I would say for the entire season, because I think that as obviously the season progresses, the challenges get stiffer time and time again. They have, but I'm trying to pull up their schedule right now. They've got the Broncos this upcoming week. Then they have the Titans, right? The Titans seem like they're just in a little bit of a hot water right now. Then you got the Rams, you got the Raiders. So they have some games where I think that the Colts could rattle off some victories. I really think so. I think the Colts organization realizes if they're going to win with Shane Steichen, this has got to be the year that they do it. That's why they brought in new defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, and they're hoping that, hey, you know what? We can kind of put this whole thing to bed. We can finally say, you know what? We've got a competent quarterback back there, and we think that we can get the most out of our team. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on in the conversation, but before we do, actually, do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. We've got a really cool interview coming out later today on the channel at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I sat down with former first-round pick of the Denver Broncos and current Cincinnati Bengals tight end Noah Fant as we discussed his journey in the NFL from being traded to ending up here in Cincinnati and what went into him signing with the Cincinnati Bengals and everything and so much more. So we hope that you guys tune in on the channel to watch that interview at 7 p.m. Eastern time. It's definitely going to be a can't miss interview. But the question I've got is, are the Detroit Lions set up to fail? That's a conversation that I want to have. Are the Detroit Lions set up to fail? And I feel like that's one of those conversations that are so intricate. Number one, let me start off by saying this. I don't think they're set up to fail. I think that they have the roster in place. I think that anytime you move off of an Aaron Glenn at defensive coordinator, who we all can agree is one of the best defensive coordinators in football, and then anytime you move off of Ben Johnson, who's been lauded as an offensive guru, this is what it could look like. That is why and people weren't a fan when I first said it, or when I even threw the idea out there. But that's why I was saying when you get a quote unquote can't miss coordinator that gels that well with your quarterback, sometimes it might behoove you to keep that guy and even promote that guy versus seeing that guy walk out the door, because it could create a little bit of stagnance on the offense. And I think that's what we're seeing right now with Jared Goff and the Lions. I think we're seeing a lot of stagnant, and I think that we're not seeing that same firepower that we want, but the talent is still there, right? They still have all the players. They have all the talent in the world to succeed, but I just think at the end of the day, it's going to be up to them to sort of put it together. And we all knew that this was going to be a big year for Dan Campbell, where the magnifying glass, the microscope was going to be on him, because people wanted to know, hey, you know what, Dan Campbell, are you that coach that you claim to be? Are you the guy that can get the best out of players through motivation? Are you a culture setter truly? And you've set the culture, right? But now here comes the development part, right? I think that's the wonderful thing about coaches in the National Football League, which we don't talk about enough, is every coach sort of has traits that they have built within them. For a Dan Campbell, his trait is motivation, getting his guys up to play, getting his guys excited for games that are coming up. I think the development side is on his coordinators. Dan Campbell is much more of a culture setter, But what happened? It's hard to set a culture if you don't have the people that can, I guess, perfect the X's and O's and sort of make your job easy. I think a big part of Dan Campbell's job is delegation. And right now, what we're seeing right now is his inability probably to delegate because, well, he's got guys that are probably inexperienced in this role. And so what we're seeing before our very own eyes is, well, what is Dan Campbell made of as a head coach? If he's going to survive this year beyond, we're going to need to see him take that next step, whether that means he's got to get his hands more involved with the offense or more involved with the defense, right? We're going to need to see that because at the end of the day, you're the one that has their name signed on that. You are the head coach of the football team. So I don't think that the Detroit Lions are set up to fail, but I do think that they're set up for a reality check. That's what I will say. I think they are set up for a reality check. Marissa, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to take the opposing stance here, and I think that they are set up to fail. I mean, no offense, but when you have Jared Goff as your quarterback and you don't have an offensive-minded guru like Ben Johnson as your offensive coordinator anymore, I think you're starting to now see these issues. Like Jared Goff, he was a fine quarterback with the Los Angeles Rams, but instantly he comes to Detroit, he gets paired with Ben Johnson, and he looks like a fringe top 10 quarterback, at least top 15.
Yeah.
But now without Ben Johnson's offense there, now he's struggling. Granted, also, like, you go against a defensive line like the Packers last week, and you get Penei Sewell dominated by Micah Parsons in the limited reps that he did play. Does not help things. But I just feel like if you have Jared Goff as your quarterback and you're not willing to make progressions towards your future to get your future franchise quarterback under center, then you're setting yourself up to fail not only this season with all the changes that have happened, but your future as well.
I think set up to fail is a very, very strong word. I don't think the organization set up to fail because the weapons are still there. The talent is still there. Maybe it's an organizational failure on the people that they've hired. But again, this is just premature talk. This is only week one. They could come out next week and look like a completely different football team. I think what everyone was expecting to see was the Detroit Lions of last season. We did not get that. That's okay. But again, I think the setup to fail conversation is just a little bit too premature for my liking. I just don't think that I'm there yet completely. But let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Do you guys think that the Detroit Lions will bounce back? Do you think they'll put it all together? Or do you think that they'll actually or do you think that they're in for a rude awakening this season? So let me know down in the comment section as well. And we'll make sure we get to some questions as well as the show progresses on. I think the next conversation that I want to go with is the Miami Dolphins, right? We talked about them a little bit on Monday's show, but I want to talk about them a little more. Should the Dolphins blow it up? That is the conversation right now that is taking place. That is a conversation that I even kind of go through in my head. It sucks because I do think Mike McDaniel is a very good play caller. I do think he tried to tailor his entire offense around Tua Tagovailoa's skill set. And for whatever reason, it hasn't necessarily panned out this year. We saw them together right away, and they looked damn good. They looked awesome, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Looked like they could really be contenders. And for whatever reason, it's just sort of fallen flat. Some people have brought up, has it been the accumulation of the injuries Tua has sustained? Could it be Mike McDaniel not being necessarily the best leader for the organization? He's a little bit of an awkward guy. Or could it just be this matchup between the two just doesn't gel as well as we thought it would, right? Because ideally, I think Tua needs someone that'll push him, but I also think Tua needs somebody that can deal with him with all his limitations. And I feel like for a lot of people seeing what Mike McDaniel was able to do with the Brock Purdy, they thought in their heads, it's a shoe, and he's going to be able to get the most out of Tua and his limitations because he's able to do it with Brock Purdy. So you look at it, I don't know. I'm looking at it, and I'm having a little bit of I'm having some difficulty seeing where the Dolphins go from here. I think that there's a world in which they could move off of Tua, but again, you just rewarded Tua with a new contract. So what do you do then? You blow it up at the quarterback spot. You bring in a new quarterback. Yeah, this brings me to another point. And I hate to beat a dead horse, but when the Miami Dolphins had the opportunity, along with other teams in the National Football League, to go after Lamar Jackson, I thought that they should have put all their eggs in a basket. And I thought Mike McDaniel's offense with Lamar Jackson would have created fireworks. That is what I've always felt. That is what I always believed. Obviously, we know how the story went. Lamar Jackson signs back with the Ravens after a long negotiation battle after he was told, hey, you can go out there, seek your own trade, negotiate your own contract, yada, yada, yada. But could you have imagined Mike McDaniel with Lamar Jackson? How much different would life have been for the Miami Dolphins if they would have been able to secure the services of a Lamar Jackson? Again, water under the bridge, but it's fun to talk about and go down memory lane of what could have potentially happened. That all being said, I think that when you just throw it on the table, should the Miami Dolphins blow it up? I think they're going to have no choice after this season but to blow it up, because how else are you going to put ass in seats? How else are you going to get people excited about the potential of watching Dolphins football and be for this year, next year, and beyond? Like, you know what I mean? So I think that if the Dolphins don't turn it around fast, they're going to have no choice but to. You've already got Tyreek Hill unhappy on the sideline, throwing temper tantrums. What else are the Dolphins to do? What else are they to do? And it sucks, right? My father's a Miami Dolphins fan. He go through so many offensive changes, so many head coaching changes and defensive coordinator changes. You think at some point they finally get it right. To be honest with you, I thought that they got it right with Brian Flores when they hired that guy. I really believe they did. They seem like a tough football team, but for whatever reason, whatever took place behind the scenes, it did not gel. It did not gel. And he was done in Miami. But I thought Brian Flores was a good coach for them. I thought that was a coach that they could win with personally. Now we'll see who's next up on the deck, right? Because we don't know if Mike McDaniels. I know a lot of people have these like polls out there and they're saying, "Hey, Mike McDaniels is going to be the first coach to get fired." I don't know if they'll move off of him that quickly, but I do believe that changes are on the horizon for the Miami Dolphins. Marissa, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you on this. They have to make changes. You look at it. Mike McDaniel, when facing winning teams, he has not had success. And personally, I think as much as the blame does go to Tua in terms of not exactly seeing the field well or not exactly playing well, also I do think that this does mainly fall back on Mike McDaniel. I have questions about his actual ability to be a head coach in terms of getting the most out of a team. I think he's a great offensive coordinator. But I think we have seen the flaws of him from a leadership standpoint, where he has not been able to maintain the culture with this team throughout his entire stance. That has caused issues with players on the sideline, like Tyreek Hill showing his frustrations. And also, I just don't think he's able to manage all that in a game.
It's a lot of egos to manage. You had Jalen Ramsey, Tyreek Hill on the same exact team. Jalen Ramsey obviously is no longer there. But to me, I just think that it's hard being a young coach, right? Also coaching in Miami Dolphins, but there's a lot of distractions in a big city like that. And it almost makes me think that the Miami Dolphins would do better with a coach that probably, you know what? I'll wait to make that comment. I'll wait to make that statement, because I don't want to. I don't want to I don't want to put all the eggs in one basket and just say something that I might look back on and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I didn't give Mike McDaniels a fair shake, but I do believe that there is some truth into what you said. I do believe that there's some truth into what you said, and I'm curious to see what Stephen Ross and the Miami Dolphins ownership group what they do. I'm really, it's going to be interesting to see how they get the organization back to believing in this team again, and if they believe that Tua is their guy moving forward, because you already gave him a contract extension. So there's a lot of conversations that need to be had. Again, if you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. Listen, Marissa, are the Packers Super Bowl contenders? They look so good. They look so good to start the season. Obviously, they beat the team we were just talking about, the Detroit Lions. But the Packers seem like a team that had it all figured out. They seem like a team that were prepared. Seem like a team that were locked in. Like, again, I don't want to overreact week one, but I like what I saw from the Green Bay Packers is where I'll leave it at. I like what I saw with the Green Bay Packers. I think that they're a talented team. I think they can win with Jordan Love. And credit to Matt LaFleur again. Matt LaFleur was a guy that I didn't necessarily have the most, when we were talking about Mike McDaniel, Matt LaFleur was a guy I didn't have necessarily the most belief in a couple years ago, right? Because I saw how they struggled in a game when Aaron Rodgers was out. And I said, I don't know if this guy is necessarily the coach that we all expect him to be. And then we saw how Jordan Love has just matured, his maturation under LaFleur's system with the Green Bay Packers. And it just seems like it just fit like a glove. It seems like things come easy to them. Things come natural to them. I think that the Packers are a very good football team, and it wouldn't shock me if they're competing in the NFC Championship at the season's end. That is where I'll leave it at. Marissa, is there anything you want to add to that before I move to the next topic?
Yeah, I'll just say, going on the topic of the day, it's amazing what happens when you let a young quarterback sit behind a veteran quarterback.
But again, not all quarterbacks need that.
No,
not all quarterbacks need that. Sometimes you're hoping that sometimes quarterbacks show you enough where you feel confident to put them out there. But continue, sorry.
But I think it's just, to your point, it's amazing to see Jordan Love's progression, how much, kind of like JJ McCarthy, how much poise he's had so early on in his career, being able to lead an offense that when you look at it, there's not really many star standout names. Like the wide receiver room is missing Christian Watson right now due to him still recovering from an ACL injury, and they were still able to go out there with the receiving core of Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, and be able to do what they did to the Detroit Lions, who have been at the top of the NFC North for quite the past few seasons. Again, obviously they're going through changes right now, but at the same time, they were still able to go out there, efficiently pass the ball. The run game is dominant with Josh Jacobs. And now you factor in what they were able to do week 1 with Micah Parsons playing not even nearly as many snaps as he will be in the future. And I like this Green Bay Packers team. I am honestly going to stand on the table and say that they are Super Bowl contenders with this roster from the top at the head coaching position all the way down.
Okay. High praise. Speaking of the Packers, we have a heavyweight fight tonight, actually. We've got an NFC, a showdown in the NFC today. It's the Packers versus the Commanders. And a couple of years ago, you say that you don't think that would be a showdown, but here we are. I want to give you some of my favorite plays for that game. I'm rocking with the Packers money line. Let's start there. I think the Packers beat the Commanders. I think the Commanders are good. I think they're in for a little bit of a regression this season. I like Jaden Daniels. I think that he's a fine quarterback, but I like the Packers money line. Let's start us off there. As far as touchdown scores in this game, Marissa, I love Josh Jacobs to score a touchdown. That feels like an easy play, though, at -196, which brings me over to some of our player reception props, right, that I want to go with. Tucker Kraft has burnt me too many times. I'll be honest with you. Tucker Kraft has burnt me too many times for me to sit up here and tell the people you need to pick Tucker Kraft to go over 3.5 receptions. That he's burnt me too many times for me to say that. But Marissa, I'm going to say it. Tucker Kraft to go over 3.5 receptions against the Commanders. That is a play that I like. I think that this Packers offense is really rolling right now, and I think that they have a lot of belief in themselves, and I think that Jordan Love is the catalyst to them believing in themselves. On the Commander side, there is some stuff that I like. I think that Zach Ertz reception props are a little. I think Zach Ertz probably gets 3 receptions. I don't know if he gets 4. Y'all know I'm the tight end whisperer, so I always got to go to my tight end plays immediately. I think what I also like in this game, Marissa, a sneaky play. I like Jaden Daniels over 44.5 rushing yards. I think that he gets that. I think he does that. And I like Jordan Love over 6.5 rushing yards. Those are my plays that I like for this upcoming game. I think we're in for a pretty exciting game. A game that I think that the Packers are going to definitely come out of with the W. I think that we're going to see what these teams are made of. I think you have no choice but to see what these teams are made of. Do you have any thoughts on those plays, Marissa?
Yeah, I would say out of that, I like both the Packers money line here.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's going to be a fun matchup, but Packers, I think, going off of what I just said, I think that they have way too much talent for Washington to really keep up. And then the Josh Jacobs touchdown, I will completely agree with. I think he's hit like that touchdown prop the last 10 games.
Yeah.
It is. So, I mean, going against this Commanders defense that looked good last week, but also still it was against the Giants. I definitely love that Josh Jacobs prop there.
Okay. All right. So we're in alignment with some stuff. All right. Thank you guys again. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. It's one of our quicker morning shows. One of the last things I want to talk about before we get out of here today, Marissa, is Canelo Alvarez taking on Terrence Crawford. Huge boxing fight taking place this week. People are saying it's the matchup of the decade. I always like to wait to see how people weigh in. Obviously, there's some concerns about Terrence Crawford and his body and how it's looked, and he's dealt with a shoulder injury, the whole 9 yards. That all being said, I've got some plays that I like in this fight. I got some plays that I like in this fight. So one of the plays that I like in this fight is most punches thrown, right? You can get this on FanDuel at plus 126. I'm going with Canelo Alvarez to have most punches thrown. Usually I would not, but there's been talk about a shoulder injury with Terrence Crawford, and that might make me think that he's going to be very cautious when he does throw. But you can get Canelo Alvarez most punches thrown at plus 126. That is a play that I really, really like. And on top of that, Canelo Alvarez to win this fight via points or decision plus 120. The reason why I'm going with those two plays, and you're probably saying, Malik, well, why aren't you talking more about Terrence Crawford? Because I think the world of Terrence Crawford. Well, Terrence Crawford kind of added fuel to that fire when he says, after the fight, everybody will understand everything that I have been through. He tweeted that out or something like that, which tells me that there is some real truth to some of these rumors that are out there. I don't know how true, how severe injuries are the whole 9 yards, but I can tell you one thing's for sure. I expect Terrence Crawford to approach this fight more from a defensive sound type of style. I think it's a tough ask to ask Terrence Crawford to go up and weight, albeit it's by a few pounds, but to go up and weight and take on a Canelo Alvarez that is going to look to dig to the body, that's going to look to hurt Terrence Crawford in the body. I try to look at where Terrence Crawford has advantages in this fight, and I just feel like Canelo's going to be the bigger guy. Canelo's going to be the guy that's going to be looking to do more danger from the inside. And funny enough, Terrence Crawford, you're expecting Terrence Crawford. You need Terrence Crawford to sort of be able to play more of a defensive matador defense type of style to beat a Canelo Alvarez. I just don't know if he's going to be able to for a full 12 rounds. I think Canelo at some point is going to find him. I don't believe anybody's going to be knocked down in this fight. I don't believe anybody's going to be knocked down in this fight, but I do believe that we're going to get Canelo to win this fight via decision. It's a fight that I'm looking forward to. I'm sure that people are looking forward to this fight. I think we're in for a good one. I think we are in for a treat. Somebody said in the comment section, KP from KC, appreciate you, brother. He says the draw is like plus 1,400. Yeah, man. It wouldn't shock me if it was a close fight too, and they gave it a draw because you'd want that rematch. But it feels more and more like Canelo might take this only because of the circumstances, the weird circumstances that is surrounding Terrence Crawford in camp. That's just my thoughts. That's kind of where I stand on it. Mercy, you got any thoughts on that fight?
No, I'll back you, knowing that you have the boxing background here, and that you watch a lot more boxing than I do. I would definitely, and also going off of what Will has said in the comments too, Canelo definitely seems like the play to go with here.
Yeah, I just feel like Canelo. So I didn't even see what Will said. Will said Canelo money line is the only thing I'm touching. Yeah, I mean, I think Canelo money line, but Canelo to win by decision too. I just don't think Canelo will be able to knock out Terrence Crawford. Not that he can't. Canelo just doesn't knock a lot of people out at this point. It was the stage of his career. I also think they have a lot of respect for one another, and when that obviously gets factored in, you make a lot of money together. Sometimes business decisions are made in there. He said Crawford won't be as effective up 2 weight classes either. Yeah, I agree. It's gonna be interesting, but I think that I got to go with the smarter play. The guy that's been in the bigger fights, although Terrence Crawford looked great against Errol Spence Big Fish, he was able to still get him out of there and win that fight pretty handily, pretty decisive. I'm going with Canelo Alvarez to win this fight via decision. That is my take. That is my take of the day. Anyway, guys, we want to thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of The Morning Show. We'll be back tomorrow for Fantasy Football Fridays. Fantasy Football Fridays, that will be our big morning show. We'll be joined by Michael O'Hara, Steve Bradshaw, and we'll be discussing all things fantasy football to get you guys all caught up. We'll be talking Cincinnati Bengals. And will the Bengals move to 2-0, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars? Remember, the morning show is live every single Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, where we talk about your favorite sports and all the latest news in sports. Remember, live on this channel at 7 p.m. later tonight is the one-on-one interview with Bengals tight end Noah Fant. So do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, that bell icon, so you guys don't miss when we go live and when that interview is officially airing on the channel. Remember, there's only one way you should be waking up, talking sports, watching sports, indulging in the conversation, and that is the right way.
This is 𝗕𝗙𝗎𝗪.